Welcome to Football Night in New York. Draft week continues on. Jonas Schwartz alongside Eamon, McAnaney, Ralph Vacchiano. Plenty to get into today, guys. As the Giants, we all know plenty of talk about their need for an offensive tackle, help protect Daniel Jones, but they also have needs for defensive playmakers. So, Ralph, should they be looking at Isaiah Simmons, the Swiss Army knife type linebacker out of Clemson?
You know, I think that they could take Isaiah Simmons at 4. It's certainly possible. Something that Dave Gettleman will have to consider. He's set that bar high. He wants a gold jacket Hall of Fame player. If he feels that Simmons is that kind of special guy that you can't get most years, then sure, you got to do that. But if not, those 4 tackles that are sitting there in any order that you want, it fills such a huge need for the Giants. I mean, we've been hearing Dave Gettleman talk about hog mollies since the day he took over as Giants general manager. Day one, he said, I'm going to fix this offensive line. And yet in his 2 drafts, we've seen him take 2 offensive linemen, one of them in the 7th round. It's way past time for him to get blocking for his quarterback and running back and help make that offense go. I don't see how he passes up one of the tackles.
Yeah, Ralph, there's no arguing that offensive line is the bigger need, but you mentioned it. Those 4 tackles still seem interchangeable. Wirfs, Thomas, Beckton, Wills, they all seem like they're the same guy. Are they really worthy of the number 4 overall pick? You talk about the gold jacket. Obviously, that's a high bar, but Dave Gettleman said it there. I think Isaiah Simmons is the better football player. We'll get to need later. This is a guy who can do a little bit of everything on the defensive side of the ball. I saw him 2 years ago in the college football semifinal guard Notre Dame wide receiver Miles Boykin step for step, and that's a guy who played a lot as a rookie for the Ravens, so it's not a chopped liver wide receiver that he's guarding. I just think he's the better football player and is going to make a bigger impact than an offensive tackle that doesn't really scream Jonathan Ogden. And yes, that's a Hall of Famer with the yellow jacket, but that's what you're thinking when you have the number 4 overall pick. Offensive line, certainly a need for the Jets. So is wide receiver. They need to get Sam Darnold some weapons in the passing game. This draft is loaded with quality wide receivers. Ralph, which one do you think the Jets should target, and how early should the Jets pick them?
They will certainly consider a receiver at 11. And it's going to depend on what happens with those 4 tackles, whether one is waiting for them at 11. They're looking at the possibility that all 3 of the top receivers, Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, could all be sitting there for the Jets. And, I hear that they like all 3 of them. So it could be a very tempting choice. But if I'm them, I would address tackle first and wait until the 2nd round on a receiver, because this draft is so deep, as you mentioned. I hear scouts say that there could be guys with 1st-round grades waiting for teams in the middle of the 2nd round. That's an incredible value, and it's incentive to wait on that. Maybe they get a guy like Notre Dame's Chase Claypool. Maybe they get USC's Michael Pittman, and guys with size, guys with speed who have the potential to be that number 1 receiver. If you can get him in the 2nd round, address another need first.
Yeah, I think the depth of this draft, the depth of the wide receiving class in this draft dictates the Jets have to go offensive tackle at 11. And if one of those big 4 is not there at 11, if I'm the Jets, I would trade down and pick up extra draft picks. You could still get a good wide receiver to the point you're making, Ralph, and get a guy in the 2nd or 3rd round that probably would have a 1st-round grade in other drafts. As for the type of wide receivers, well, how about any and all? Burners, guys who can move the chains, anything but a slot receivers. The Jets have Jamison Crowder. They have a need with they've been decimated to that position, so it should be interesting to see guys like Brandon Ayuk, Michael Pittman, who has the history with Darnold, and Denzel Mims. Those guys should all be in play for the Jets in the 2nd and 3rd round. Obviously, Joe Douglas running his first draft as the Jets general manager. Remember, got the job after the draft a year ago, and Arjun Coakley caught up with him to see what he's thinking.
And, Joe, you said in February that you wanted to make Jamal Adams a Jet for life. Do you still believe that?
Yeah, nothing's changed on my thought with Jamal. This virtual off season, it's a voluntary thing, and and again, I'll stress the word voluntary, but nothing's changed in my thoughts or plans with Jamal.
Do you hope to get a deal done with him?
The plan. I don't have a set timetable on that, but the hope is to have him be here a long time.
How important do you feel this draft is for you?
Oh, I mean, we don't take this draft. I mean, this draft is vital for us. We have a real opportunity here with 4 picks inside the top 79 to really get guys that can make a difference. And one good draft class can really change the trajectory of the franchise. I think you've seen that happen in the last couple of years with certain draft classes. So I feel confident about the work that our guys have done together, the collaboration that's taken place. And we just need to make sure that we get the right types of players and people that can come here and really affect the change that we want to make as a team and an organization.
All right, good stuff from Jeane and Joe Douglas, and you can catch their full interview, 6:30 Thursday night, Jets Nation Draft Day special. Ralph and I will also be joined by Bart Scott as we get you all ready for the Jets in the first round of the draft. Interesting spot here, Ralph, for Joe Douglas. His first draft, once again, as the Jets general manager. So how important is it that he sets the tone by bringing in his kind of guy in this draft?
You said it. It's all about setting the tone for Joe Douglas. Obviously this isn't a make or break draft for a first-year general manager, but Jets fans, they are scarred by years of bad drafting. Mike McAnaney's drafts were not good at all. So everybody's intently watching Joe Douglas to see what he will do differently to try to learn his philosophies, learn what kind of draft picks he likes, how he wants to build this team. It's really the first chance to put his stamp on it. We saw in free agency that he was looking for low-budget guys, a lot of offensive linemen. Will he approach it the same way, focusing on offensive linemen in the draft? Will he find another position that he likes? Will he go for big schools or small schools? We all just want to know, what is Joe Douglas about? What's his philosophy? And Jet fans are looking for any reason to have a little faith.
Ralph, it might not be make or break for a first-year GM, but I don't think it's an overstatement to say this draft could define his tenure as the Jets general manager. I think this is a huge moment in time for this franchise. Tom Brady's out of the AFC East. You have a franchise quarterback going into his third season. You have a coach who's already on the hot seat going into his second season. This is a chance for Joe Douglas to put his kind of culture on the franchise, but also infuse it with talent. Remember Jamal Adams famously saying, "We need more dogs." They still need more dogs. And this is a chance for Joe Douglas to get Darnold those weapons to help protect them. I don't think you can understate how important this draft is for this franchise to take the next step and be a contender in the AFC East, Jonas.
And you know what, Eamon? For them to do that, Joe Douglas has to do what Mike McAnaney could not, which was, forget just the first-round picks. He's got to bring in a lot of talent in the later round, second round, third round, fourth round. I mean, McAnaney missed on so many of those picks for a variety of reasons, and he's also got to show that him and the coach are on the same page. We know that McAnaney and Adam Gase were not a year ago. That's why McAnaney's out. Now you have to see that Douglas and Gase, they should be on the same page. You have to see how that plays out, and it better work quickly for the Jets. There's no doubt about that. All right, guys, we will be with you all throughout draft week. We will see you tomorrow. For Eamon and Ralph, I'm Jonas. We'll see you then.